Hi there. In this week's form drawing exercise, we're going to look at a variation of the form we have been working with. And we're going to create a band with 5 binds in it. So this is what it looks like. So I'll just maybe draw that up. That's not very, I think actually I'll use this. That way we can see better what it is we're doing here. So this is the first part of the band. You have your first sort of half circle here that turns into, this is actually the first part of the bind, but you're not going to bind until you get back the way. So we create the first hill here, and then we go into a deeper valley here, and then we create a hill which is actually slightly higher. So you can see the first sort of hill here is not so high, then we create a second hill which is higher than the first, and then a third hill here which is higher than the second. But when we go back into our valley here, our valley wants to be kind of in line with the valley that's going to appear here, and then back into a small hill here. And now we're ready to go back the way. So now we're back ready to intersect and create our binds. So here we're binding and creating yet another bind here, and binding again here, and binding finally at the end. So I'll just show you. So we have our first hill, then we have a second hill, and a first valley, and then our third hill which is higher than the second and first, and a valley which is not as deep as the first valley, and then a hill here which finishes, and then we're looping back where we're intersecting, and then we're creating our second bind, and then a valley which is as deep as the valley that it's next to, and then we're binding and creating a hill here which is as tall as the hill that it's next to here. And then we're binding, and then a valley here which should be about the same kind of height or depth as the valley here, and then into our final bind. So I'll just draw that up with a blue crayon so you can maybe see a little bit better. So this is really where we're coming from. I'm just trying to get the blue line really clear so you can see it in the video. I can see it quite clearly, but I want you to be able to see it. And here we're going back, so I'm using the red crayon to go back so you can see the intersecting line which mirrors the blue line. So here we're creating our bind, our first bind, and then a second bind, and going into this the deepest valley, and then binding again and creating our highest hill which mirrors the other highest hill here, and then into our valley and the last bind. So basically This is our red. So I hope you can see that this is basically, we have a smallish shape here at the beginning and a smallish shape at the end. And they should really mirror each other. So they should be kind of roughly the same height and the same depth. You know, so height here, top here, and bottom here, top here. So the tops should really be the same height, and the bottoms should be the same. And the same with these two shapes. So we'll call this shape A, and this is also an A shape, and we'll call this shape B, and this shape B, and I'm calling them B just because, you know, that way you can see that these are the two ones that should mirror each other, and the A shape should mirror each other, and then you have your C there, and they should also mirror each other. So this is the shape that you should practice and work with, and as you can see, it has a kind of rise and a kind of fall. So it has that sort of shape, but it is not a simple shape to draw. So I suggest that you, maybe if you're finding it difficult, you go back and you do your shape. You practice this shape again. My shapes have a tendency to grow quite slim, so I'm always having to kind of work over my lines a little bit to get them a little bit fuller. So that's the first shape that I would suggest that you go back to and practice if you're finding this difficult. The next shape that I would suggest that you do then is develop this shape. So you end up with two binds. Here we have one bind, here we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 binds, as you can see. So next step would be, I think, to have 2 binds. So, and you would do that by drawing it like this. So here, as you can see, we have 2 binds. And this is a really nice shape to draw. What you want to make sure is that you're drawing this middle section higher. So when you're coming from your little shape here, from your little curve here, and you're going out of your shape, it should rise, and then before it falls back down and then goes into another little shape, and then when you're coming out of this shape, it should extend down below these 2 shapes. So basically you could, if you wanted to, you could do like a help line and a help line here, so that you're creating your shape in the side of that, and then making sure that your shape rises above the line, and then you're coming around and go below the line in order to come back. But this is a nice shape to draw because again it's a harmonious shape, and it's the same, and it's sort of, I think you'll get the hang of this quite quickly if you practice that. The next step is to make 3 binds before you move on to doing the 5 binds. So you would have another shape like this one that mirrors the middle part of this, and it would look like this. So again, always go over your shape if you think, oh, that didn't really come out the way I was hoping it would. Just go back over your shape, rework it until you think, yeah, now it's looking better. And again, what you want to do here is you want to make sure that your two little shapes are roughly in line with each other. So these, obviously don't draw these lines, it's just to illustrate that the bottom and the bottom here are kind of roughly in line, and the top here and the top here are roughly in line. And the same should be the case for these two bigger shapes. So here you have this. So this is our starting line. And then you're intersecting and going back the way, creating your 3 binds. So I hope you can see this again in the video quite clearly. I'm drawing this up with the crayon. So here you have your 2 lines, but obviously it's just to illustrate. It should be one long, continuous, smooth, flowing line. And it creates, as you can see, 3 binds. So you have your first bind here, and your second bind here, and your third bind here. Actually, because the binds are visible when we're going back with the red line, you could say this is the first bind, this is the second bind, and this is the final and last bind as you're coming back here and looping and ending up your shape. So here again, that's your A, and that's your A shape, and then you have your B and your B. And these, I'm saying A and B because A should mirror the A here, and the B shape here should mirror this B shape here. So that's the exercise for this week. I'll be back next week, where I hope you'll join me for a new exercise.